Hey, what's up guys? Today I'll show you a suspense thriller film, The Village. Spoiler ahead, watch out and take care. Somewhere in the deep forest, there's a mysterious, isolated village. Residents there live a simple and primitive life. No crimes have ever happened there, and they seem to all live and work happily. However, as healthcare is too awful there, many children have died from the disease at a very young age, and every time when there is a child passing away, the village head sorrows for the death, and signs to the rest, wondering whether it's right for them to settle down there, and suffer the primitive life. After all, beyond the forest, there is a said prosperous town, with abundant medical supplies, which could have saved many children's lives from the minor illness. The village elders, however, warned villagers never to travel across the woods to the outside world, because they all believe that the town on the other side is inhabited only by evil people. And more importantly, the woods have been taken by the scary monsters in red robes. The demons have not intruded on the village for many years, seemingly having kept peace with the villagers as long as the villagers don't go into the forest. As it is said that the monsters will be attracted by things in red, all things with red colors are forbidden in the village, even the red flowers and fruits. Despite that, the residents are still living in great fear, especially when hearing howls of the monsters from the forest. However, not like other villagers. The young man Noah, who has developmental disabilities, turns excited and claps his hands like a kid every time he hears the howls. Noah is irritable and likes beating people for fun. Once he starts doing that, no one can stop him. However, he behaves quite timid before his crushed girl Ivy, blind and the daughter of the village head. Though Ivy and Noah seem to be quite intimate, Ivy doesn't love him, but has her affection for a man called Lucius, who is poor in language, but pretty rich in hormones. When once again a resident's child dies due to lack of medicine, Lucius offers to go to the town for some medical supplies, but gets rejected many times by the elders. That's because they are still in fear, and no one would like to break the truce with the monsters. With few hormone targets left in such an isolated village, Ivy's elder sister can't hold her desires any longer, and confesses her love to the hormone magnet Lucius someday, but ends up getting refused, causing her to burst into crying. Actually, the one Lucius really loves is Ivy instead of her shitty sister. Also, Ivy knows Lucius has been hiding his feelings for her long since. Just when Ivy is trying to lead Lucius to talk about it, Noah comes and interrupts their talk with some wild fruits he picked for Ivy. Both the two are surprised as the fruits are red, the forbidden color in the village. While Noah seems to care nothing about that, and even shows them the place where he got the fruits. Until then, they find out that Noah has been sneaking into the woods for a long time. Because of that, Lucius is even more convinced that it will be fine to pass the woods to get to the town. However, the elders once again reject his request. And Lucius' mom, in order to stop Lucius, reveals to him that his father was shot dead in the town, and the box in the corner contains all the painful memories about the cursed town, reminding her not to go there again. Despite all of that, Lucius still decides to give it a shot. He soon takes a chance to sneak into the woods while no one notices him. He soon finds the red fruits Noah picked before, and later is terrified by a red monster, before escaping uninjured. However, that eventually breaks the truce between the monsters and the village. Later that night, the monsters cross the border to attack the village. But thanks to the village sentinels, the residents hide in the basement in time, and thus avoid the casualties. The next day, the elders call a meeting, and reach a conclusion that someone must have broken into the woods, and the attack is only a warning from the monsters. Lucius owns up to his action with great guilt. To his surprise, the village head doesn't really blame him, but only orders to throw a huge plank of meat, hoping to appease the pissed-off monsters. However, things won't peace down so easily as they wish. At the wedding ceremony for Ivy's sister, who has found an alternative hormone magnet, the monsters break into the village again. The villagers are so frightened, and the wedding ends in a mess. But this time the monsters have left more warnings, livestock has been taken and skinned, and marks have been left high on the doors, showing that those can't be simply done by coyotes. Later that night, waking up from a nightmare, Ivy sees Lucius taking guard of her house. This time, Lucius finally conveys his inner feelings towards Ivy, and the two decide to get married. Soon the news spreads to the small village, and Noah knows it too. He gets so jealous that he stabs Lucius badly several times, making Lucius's life hung by a thread. There is nothing the villagers can do for the heavily injured Lucius, but only pray, as the healthcare is so poor in the village. Ivy can't bear the thought of losing her beloved Lucius. In rage, she slaps Noah in the face and begs the elders for permission to get some medicine for Lucius in the town. Her father, overwhelmed by the miseries of villagers dying of a lack of medical supplies, finally tells Ivy the truth about the village. It's revealed that the legendary monsters they have seen are actually played by the elders, wearing red costumes. The elders used to live in the town, but lost their beloved ones due to the crimes in the town. They have ever since been living in great pain and questioning the meaning of life. In the end, they decided to leave the sinful world full of painful memories and founded the village they are living in now. They made up the story about the monsters so as to deter others from leaving the village and getting connected with the outside world. And the howls, marks, and other things, which were thought to be done by the monsters, were actually done by them. They didn't mean to harm anyone, but just wanted to protect the ones they care about. The father asks for Ivy's pardon and wishes her to take his duties to keep protecting the villagers. Then he allows her to leave for the town to get medical supplies. He sends another 2 young men to go together with Ivy. However, these 2 men, in fear of the monsters, abandon Ivy immediately in the woods. Despite knowing the monsters are not real, Ivy is still in fear, being left hopeless in the wild for the first time. What's worse, due to her blindness, she almost falls into a deep hole. Just as she struggles to get herself out of the hole, she hears some terrifying sounds coming from behind her. She is so scared that she keeps running all the way to an area full of red fruits. And the next second, she senses a monster standing behind her. The monster then tries to attack her. She has no choice but to run as fast as she can to get rid of it. Later, as she finds she has run back to the big hole, she manages to trick the monster into falling into the hole. Then she quickens her pace and soon finds the path her father has told her, which leads to the edge of the woods. Dramatically, the monster trapped in the hole turns out to be Noah, who took the costumes he discovered under the floorboards of the room where he's confined. He tried to make fun of Ivy, but ends up getting trapped in the deep hole and left dying in despair. However, Ivy knows nothing about that, believing she has met a monster and killed it. Ivy soon gets to the edge of the woods and finds a high and ivy-covered wall. As she is climbing over it, a young park ranger spots her and is shocked to know that she's lived in the woods for decades. While Ivy learns from the ranger the truth about the woods, which is actually the Walker Wildlife Preserve, named for Ivy's family, and that it is actually the 21st century now, instead of the 19th. Her father and some followers have founded the village and the preserve, where there's supposed to be no humans at all. The young ranger decides to help Ivy and goes back to the station to search for some medicine. While right at that time, the police radio is reporting several new crimes and tragedies haunting the town and its innocent people. Moments later in the village, the news has spread that Ivy has killed one of the monsters and has returned with the medicine for Lucius. After knowing that Ivy doesn't know the monster she killed is Noah, the elders decide to keep it a secret and continue with their story about the monsters, believing that they can protect their loved ones from the miseries only in that way, and provide them a primitive but peaceful living place, far from any sins. This is Daniel CC Movie Channel. Peace out.